Hello, my name is Rachel Henry and I am with EVERFI. I'm excited to share today in this session with you prevention education tools for students. So we will get right into it, and I'm going to present my screen. All right, so we'll go ahead and get started here. So prevention education tools for students. Again, my name is Rachel Henry. I am the Iowa Schools Manager. If I haven't had a chance to meet you before, I'm so glad to have you on this presentation. Quick agenda here. We'll go over objectives, which we're doing right now. We'll take an overview of EVERFI in general, what kind of programs we offer, and then really hone in on those health and wellness programs that are most helpful for this session. We'll discuss best practices for remote learning, as I know that is top of mind for everyone as we head into the fall. And then we'll conclude by showing how you access EVERFI and actually take a tour of the teacher dashboard. You'll be able to get access right on this call and be all set up and actually ready to get started in the fall by the end of today. And then finally, we'll leave off with next steps. So just a few things on housekeeping. I am recording this session, and so I won't be actually live per se recording this, but there is a back channel, and I will be on that back channel. So if you have any questions, please ask. I'll be able to answer them live. So you'll get more instructions about that from the conference coordinators, but I just wanted to let you know that I am technically live in answering your questions throughout the presentation. And also, please follow me on social. You can find me at Rachel_edtech. And if you find the EVERFI resources helpful and you want to tweet about them, you can use the hashtag EVERFIEmpowers. And you can also, of course, use the hashtag remote learning if you find any resources useful. And finally, you can find our company at EVERFI K-12. So diving right into overview of EVERFI. So I always like to show this pinwheel because I feel like it really helps to show all the different programs we have available. So a lot of folks know us from financial education. We started in financial education over 10 years ago, and we've had teachers here in the state of Iowa use our high school financial literacy program for many years. But we kept our ear to the ground and listened to what educators and schools needed, and SEL and health came up time and time again. So we definitely have those programs available, and we'll be discussing them today. But you'll also see we have cultural literacy, summer learning, STEM, and career exploration. So lots of good stuff here to check out. When we look at the impact in Iowa on EVERFI programs from this past year, you will see here that we had over 400 schools participate, close to 50,000 students access our courses, and over 700 teachers implement. So we're very excited to see those numbers grow and excited to be able to support school districts. It's important for me to note that these EVERFI programs are standards aligned to the Iowa core, as well as the national standards that you see presented here. So, Jumpstart, Next Gen, National Health Education Standards, and of course the CASEL SEL framework. And finally, some of the best news I get to share is that these programs are available at no cost because of the logos that you see below. So we work with some just fantastic sponsors and partners who fund these programs for your schools so that you don't have to write this into your budget. And it's not a situation where year after year you have to find funding. You can be confident that these resources will always be available to you and your students at no cost. I wanted to highlight here our local partners, Iowa Insurance Division, who sponsors the EVERFI Financial Literacy Program for high schools, as well as Unity Point Health. They sponsor the Prescription Drug Safety and Mental Wellness Basics program, and we'll talk a little bit more about their really unique and wonderful partnership since it pertains to the health and wellness courses. So diving right in, I was going to highlight a couple of our courses. One of those is first and foremost prescription drug safety. This is a Unity Point Health sponsored course here in the state of Iowa. You'll see some high level information over on the left side. So it'll show grade level from 9th to 12th grade. That is suggested. So we do have middle schools that will use these resources, and that is totally okay. We understand that every school is a little bit different in how they approach health curriculum and where those needs are. So that's just a suggestion. You'll see that the program itself has 6 lessons, and they're about 10 to 15 minutes each, all online. So I definitely wanted to highlight that and kind of highlight as well that this is an evidence-based course. It's universal and it has a public health approach. And I thought it would just be fun just to show you what the course looks like versus sort of just reading through all of this content. So what I'm going to do here is actually go to what students would see when they logged into this course. So the first thing that they're going to see when they click on starting prescription drug safety is they're going to see a message from Dr. Dave Williams from Unity Point Health.
Williams, President and CEO of Unity Point Clinic. You matter to this world, and Unity Point Health wants to support you in building a healthy life.
And so there's just a wonderful, message from Dr. Dave Williams explaining the importance of this course and how Unity Point Health is supporting. So they'll have that kind of brief video, and then they'll go into all the different modules that you see here. So this is the 6 different modules. The difference here is I'm in a teacher demo mode. So students, if I was in a student mode, wouldn't be able to see modules 2 through 6 until they've completed module 1. So they have to complete module 1, and then subsequently each module will open up because the course was designed that way. And so they'll hit that begin button on module 1, and then they'll go into a welcome screen. It'll talk about the purpose behind prescription drug abuse prevention, why it's important. They'll see a little intro video here.
Those who have been diagnosed with physical or mental illnesses lead longer and more productive lives. For example, insulin is a medication that helps people with diabetes regulate their blood sugar levels. Antibiotics have increased the length of human lives by giving doctors the tools they need to fight infection.
So just talking about different medicines here.
But when used incorrectly, prescription drugs can be harmful.
And then going into when used incorrectly, prescription drugs can be harmful, and kind of does an overview of that for the next almost 2 minutes here. And then students in this overview jump into other important parts of the learning experience, which includes this portfolio button. They're able to click on that at any time during the course and pull up a list of resources and glossary. The resources, when they click there, gives them really important information if they needed to contact any kind of these national hotlines, any kind of reporting that they may need to do. That's all available here. And then there's also a glossary where they can go in at any time and be able to reference these definitions. And they can close that and then just return. And then once right before they start, they'll have this pre-assessment. So this is part of the automatic grading system. They'll actually go through and read this just with the understanding that they currently have. This is not truly a test because they haven't gone through the modules, but they'll actually answer these questions just to see where they're at. They won't get the grade just because we know that's not important, but you will. So you'll be able to see how they do on that pre-assessment, and we'll explain where that lives on your dashboard here later on. And then as we continue here, you'll see that there is the facts. They'll learn what it means to misuse as well as abuse and what kind of the difference of those are. And then they'll go into the types of prescription drugs, so learning about opioids, depressants, stimulants. And when they click on the different topics here, like for example, when they click on opioids, they'll be able to click through and see, oh yeah, I can use opioids for, this is like a medical use. These are how they work. Here are some of the side effects, some of the brands and street names. So they're learning all of this information sort of interactively. And then at the end, through the post-quiz, once they kind of get through all that information for that first module, then they're able to go through and take those assessments. They will scramble those those questions for them and add new questions just to keep it, mix it up from the pre-assessment. Now, they will get their grades after they finish these quizzes, and you'll also be able to see them as well. Let's say, for example, a student does not like their grade, they want to improve it, they're able to retake that assessment, and we'll give them different questions. And you will also be able to see how many times they've taken an assessment on your end. So I just wanted to show you another module. So looking at refusal skills, which is really, we're getting into more of the skills piece. The first 4 modules, the basics, science of addiction, understanding prescriptions, like those are really the knowledge piece. And safe use, refusal skills, and supporting a friend are the application, like how does this actually apply to my real life? So looking at refusal skills, for instance, when they go through this module, they'll learn about the pressures to misuse and how those come about in real life. They'll go straight to a pre-quiz, just like we saw with the other module. And then they'll come into their different case studies. So for example, in this situation, we have Jax here who's saying, there's way too much material on this test. I'm never going to get through it all without some help. Oh, I can get some Adderall. Anyone else want some? And Rachel is over here thinking, whoa, nobody's ever asked me this before. I wonder what everyone else is thinking. And this is really great because students are able to go in and select responses that Rachel could say to Jax and then get feedback on that response, which is just really helpful. And then they get to try again. Then there's another scenario with Annabelle talking about how, Annabelle is a friend of her friend that you met at a few weeks ago at a party. And there's actually like a scenario where she comes up to you and explains kind of what's going on.
Me? Yeah, we met at Will's thing a couple weeks ago. Yeah, so I was talking to him last night and he said you had some prescription pain meds from getting your wisdom teeth out last week.
Yeah, so she goes in and talks about I heard that you have these prescription drug painkillers, and then she's going to ask for those. And then again, students are able to then, once that video completes, respond with any of these 3 responses and then get feedback on those. For example, maybe this response they choose actually makes the situation worse. And then they get that, you see that try again button, and they can try again in that as well. And again, this is just a safe way for students to explore what they would do in these situations. And then they'll go through that scenario several times where she will ask different things, and they will again get to try different responses and select eventually the most healthy one in order to proceed. And then just like with the other module, they'll have an opportunity to select or to finish out the module with the post-quiz. So they'll go through and take that post-quiz, getting their grade at the end. So I just wanted to make sure that you could see kind of what that looks like in real life and how interactive that course is. This is overall about a 60-minute program. It's truly supplemental to the learning that's already occurring, and it just allows for that reinforcement of those topics. I also wanted to highlight Mental Wellness Basics, which is yet another program we offer. It goes along really well with prescription drug safety. It's about the same amount of time, so about 60 minutes. It's actually divided up over about 4 lessons, but super interactive, very similar to the flow that you saw. There's going to be a module similarly with prescription drug safety that just defines the topic, which is mental health, and then explains how that's different from mental illness. So there's a lot of that knowledge piece of the definitions, also what we know in science to be true about the brain with this topic, and then really quickly in those last 2 modules gets into that application piece where students are learning what are actually healthy coping skills. How do I practice those? And then, how do I help a friend who might be experiencing a mental health challenge? So that is the piece that does conclude these courses, is kind of the community aspect, because we know these aren't just personal issues. These are issues that affect communities at large. And so they also get an opportunity to go through those types of scenarios. So I just want to do a quick rundown of some of the other SEL and health programs we have, just so you kind of know that you have these in your toolbox that you can access at any time. So we have the Compassion Project, we have Ignition, Digital Wellness and Safety, we have Character Playbook, which is all about healthy relationships, and then Honor Code Bullying Prevention. Suggested grade levels are listed here, but would definitely recommend, if any of these topics sound interesting to you, to add them to your dashboard, and I'll show you how to do that. And then on the health and wellness side, we have our nutrition courses, Healthier Me, elementary and a middle school version. And then also, of course, mental wellness basics that we talked about. We have an alcohol education course, which would be a really good alignment too with prescription drug safety as well. And I see a lot of educators bundling, especially at the high school level, mental wellness, alcohol EDU, and prescription drug safety all together. Alcohol EDU is about 2 hours, so it's a little bit longer, but these can be really great, again, supplements for your curriculum. All right, so I wanted to highlight a few best practices before we get to the dashboard, and you can check this all out for yourself. I wanted to highlight some best practices for remote learning, since I know this is top of mind for all of us. Like, what could this look like both in a classroom, hybrid model, as well as that fully online? So the first thing I wanted to highlight is when you're thinking kind of big picture about designing your units specifically for the digital space, the way EVERFI can help assist with this is we have these curriculum guides that you can download for every course. So for example, that prescription drug safety course or mental wellness basics you see here on the screen, you can download this, and in about 5 to 7 pages, it does a really good job of outlining learning objectives and activities for each module. So you can download this, maybe print them out, they're not too long, and kind of mark them up and decide what modules make sense where in your units. And essentially, that's kind of like building that playlist. Every EVERFI module within a program is about 10 to 30 minutes. So they're nice little, learning chunks that you can sort of incorporate into your existing units. And then, of course, you can either align modules to your learning objectives or create learning objectives based on the modules themselves. And I'll show you how to access these curriculum guides on your teacher dashboard. As you're thinking about creating your virtual classroom, I know this is, again, top of mind for everyone. What this could look like for EVERFI is you can actually post EVERFI assignments on Google Classroom or any other platform you may be using, like Canvas or anything else. And you can essentially assign online modules and also offline lessons, and I'll show you where those exist as well, to students. You can let students know that you can track their progress and set those expectations for how often you'll check that. So for prescription drug safety, for example, it has 6 modules. You may say, okay, students, by next Friday, I expect the first 3 modules to be done, and then the following Friday will be the next 3 modules to finish the program. You can let them know that you can actually see these the grades in your reports tab, so you know if they're completing these modules or not. We also have on bullet point 3 have included resources from EVERFI to help students get started. So just that initial just registering students so they have an account. We have a quick start guide and a registration video that shares the same information just in a different format, and you'll get access to that at the end of this presentation as well, just to make it the process easy. I know that's kind of the big hurdle because you won't necessarily be able to they won't be in your classroom where you can sort of peer behind their computer and help them. So helping you do that from afar. And lastly, my colleague here, Alyssa, who you see on the screen, we have built videos, for example, that show how to link Google Classroom with EVERFI. And happy to, again, share this out at the end. And last thing, I know that we had talked about, assessing student progress, and this reports tab I keep bringing up. This is what it looks like. And again, you'll see it in live action here in a moment. But all modules have self-grading pre and post assessments, just like you saw with prescription drug safety. You have access to answer keys So you'll be able to know what those questions are and what the correct response is, and that's going to be on your dashboard. What's really cool about the reports page is you're not only getting information about how they performed on pre and post assessments, but you're getting date and time stamps. So really you have more knowledge of when students are completing assignments, and you can let your students know that. And then finally, you can take your gradebook and you can export it here through a CSV file. So you wanted to export all your EVERFI grades, upload them to your official gradebook, you can do that as well. All right, so I want to make sure to get you access to EVERFI and a tour of the dashboard here in the last half of the presentation. So I'm going to pause here just to give you time, since I know that this will be shared out, this recording will. So I'm going to pause here for a couple minutes. I'd like you to go ahead and open up another tab in Google Chrome. So wherever you're watching this, go ahead and open up another tab. Google Chrome is going to be the best website. And I actually want you to go in and type everfi.com/new teacher. So this is where you're going to start. And it's going to take you just a couple minutes here. Once you get to that website, you're going to go ahead and find your state, find your school, and hit that next button. And then it's going to have you just put in, your basic account information. So your first and last name, your email address, which is your username, by the way. And then go ahead and select these courses depending on your grade level. So if you're high school, I encourage you to select the Prescription Drug Safety program as the first course that you'll add. And then if you're middle school or elementary, I recommend clicking Character Playbook, which is that Healthy Relationships program. Now, let's say you already have an account, or you go through this and it might, as you're registering, it might say, oh, I already recognize this email. It could be that you created an EVERFI account way back when. It's still active. You can still access it. You'll just go straight to everfi.net. And if you don't remember your password, you can just click that forgot password and it'll email that for you. But I did want to take a minute here, again, on this recording to pause and make sure that you can get in. So I will come back here in about 2 minutes and we will go through this together. So again, about 30 more seconds here. If you're on that page where it asks you what course that you want to start with, again, for high school, I recommend Prescription Drug Safety. And for middle school and elementary, I recommend Character Playbook. It doesn't mean that you won't be able to get access to any of the other courses. It's just when you first register, it has you just select one to get started. So And I will say, if you have any problems, just remember I am in that back channel, so you can definitely like message me, and I can definitely make sure to help you out as well. So we'll go ahead and move to the teacher dashboard here. So I'm going to go ahead and escape here. So and I would encourage you too, as we're going through this, for you to be on your dashboard versus on this recording watching it, just because I want you interacting on your own, so you can kind of look around and get used to it. But you are welcome at any time to like return to this recording, kind of see where I'm at. And so we're going to start first. So the first thing you see is your home page. This is where, once you first log in, you're going to be able to see all the programs that you have here. So I have prescription drug safety. You may have character playbook. I wanted to show you how you can add more courses. So if you go to the catalog button, this is going to show you all the programs that we currently have available. Now, they're broken out into these different buckets. So we have like our featured course, our popular courses, recently updated. I recommend, if you're not finding what you want, or you actually want to see all of the courses, just go down to where it says all available. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go ahead and add mental wellness basics in addition to prescription drug safety. So I'm just going to kind of scroll through here until I find mental wellness basics. So I would encourage you here, if you're middle school or elementary, if you want to add, for example, this ignition program, that should be available. Or you can actually also add mental wellness basics as well. You may see that some of the programs don't have a green add button, but it's a request button. And the reason that is because your school that you registered under hasn't had that program added to their school. And that doesn't mean you don't have access. It's more of an administration thing that I need to go in and add that to your school. So just hit that request button for me, and then go ahead, and that'll just land in my inbox and let me know that I need to add that. So as long as you hit that request button, I'll get that processed for you, and I'll get it added to your home page. So just make sure you add at least one additional course, and I'll show you why that matters here in a second. And of course, you can add as many as you want to look into. So once I have added it, I'll go back to my home screen, and then I'm going to see both prescription drug safety and mental wellness basics. The next thing I wanted to show you all is how students get started. So you'll see this big green create class button on either mental wellness or prescription drug safety or any other program that you have. I'm going to go down here for prescription drug safety and hit create class. I invite you to do the same for any of your programs. It doesn't just have to be prescription drug safety. Just click that green create class button for any of your programs. And we're actually all going to go set up our first class. So for example, for class name, I can go ahead and type in maybe health period 1. So if you do have multiple sections of health or whatever program class that you want to use the program in, you can actually explain that in your class name. And why that might be helpful is when you get to your reports section, where you're able to like look at your grades, you can filter by different class sections, which I know can be helpful. Let's say, for example, I may even want to say fall 2020, just in case I might have spring sections. And I can, be able to decipher between the two. So that's kind of just a best practice. Now, that does mean if you have multiple sections, you have to go through this process multiple times, but it gets pretty quick. So let's say I want my start date to be September. My class size, probably between 15 and 45. And then my grade level, let's say I have 9th and 10th graders. You can click back in that box and select any amount of grade levels that you want. None of this information that you're putting in has really any bearing on when you're able to use the course or with how many students. It's more for our back-end information. So start date through grade level, even if you selected a start date of September and you decided to use it in August, it's not going to, again, have any bearing on you being able to use. If I end up using it with 50 students, again, that's not going to be limited here by the class size. So just kind of more for our back-end information. And then when you come down here, this is a new feature that we have. If you've used EVERFI in the past, and you may notice that this is new, down here there's an Add Courses button. So if you click that, you're able to see all the programs that you have on your dashboard. And so, for example here, I also have mental wellness, and I want to actually have students go through both programs. So I'm going to check that little box there, and then I'm going to click the Add button in the top right. And then before I hit Create, I'm going to be able to review, okay, I have for my Health Period 1, I have K-12 Prescription Drug Safety, and I have Mental Wellness Basics. I'm all set, and now I'm going to hit Create. When I hit that Create button, I'm going to notice that it's going to pop up with this registration code. You do not have to write this down. You don't even have to copy it. There is a copy button. You don't have to do any of that. You can just actually hit that X button, and you'll see that my Health Period 1 class has been created. I also have a test class that I created, for example, down here. So the cool thing here is you can pull up that registration code at any time by just clicking the registration code button. You can also click the edit button in case you want to rename a class or put any different information in. And there's also a hide. So that kind of functions like delete. So for example, if you're like, oh, I didn't mean to create that class, it's extra, you can just hit hide. Or let's say you set up all your fall classes, and then the fall semester is over. You can go in and hide all of those so they're not like cluttering your classes tab, and then you can go in and create your spring classes. Just another example of how you can use that. So that's how students get access. There was an email once you did this that automatically got sent to you with the registration code and the link that students would need to go through that self-registration process. I highly recommend that you have students self-register. There is another way to register students, and that is a manual process where you batch upload their username and passwords. I highly recommend having students do that themselves versus you doing that. And just because it's going to be faster. Students are able to create their own username and passwords faster. And again, I'm going to give you all of those like guides and videos for how students do that here at the end. So no worries on that. I did want to show you that reports tab that I know I keep talking about. So if you click on the reports button, you'll notice that there's a little drop down, and then you can click any of the programs you see here. So you can click prescription drug safety, which is what I'm going to go ahead and select. And you could also have clicked mental wellness. So I have an example here where I've had 2 students take the prescription drug safety program. You'll notice here that they've both taken the basics program and they have grades. So what's really wonderful is they're color coded for you. So you can at a glance, let's say you have 50 students in a class or 30 students in a class, you can at a glance see how they're doing. And you can even sort these columns and just get a good sense. You'll notice that there's this column over here that says certified. So if a student is certified in a course, that means they've completed every module and they've made 70% or better. So they have all green rows or all green cells, I suppose. This is really nifty. So let's say you're just trying at a glance to see who hasn't finished and gotten that 70% or better. There is a certified and not certified drop down here. So you can actually see, okay, who has been certified? None of my students. But who is currently not certified? Oh, I've got 2 students that aren't. And this is, again, really helpful when you have like a lot of students in. But it's a trick that I learned from another teacher that they use it that way, and I think that's brilliant. And then over here is where you can, like, let's say that I want to look at my Health Period 1 class. I don't have any students there, of course, because none have registered, but my PDS test class does. So that kind of shows you the helpfulness of creating multiple sections. And then lastly, let's say, for example, I want to see if a student has started Science of Addiction. So the student who made a 40, I'll go into view and I'll notice that they have not started Science of Addiction here. So they haven't started that, but I'll see their pre-assessment and post-assessment there. So you'll notice that this has a little asterisk by it. That's because you'll see this little pencil. That's because I actually manually went in and put that grade in for them. So you do have the ability as the educator to go in and adjust those grades if you want. And if you do adjust them, it will let you know that you did so with that little asterisk. And then you can click out of that. Great. You can also search by name, so you can search your different students, and that is really wonderful. So that's how your reports tab works. The students tab is like, again, if you wanted, let's see, to add any students manually, sometimes it's easier if there's just like one student that's having trouble self-registering, you can go in and add a single student. Here's where you can add multiple students. Again, I would encourage you in all the cases, if possible, to have students self-register. But if you do need to have to do kind of a batch process, and I know a lot of our lower elementary teachers will do this, which is definitely what it's there for. Let me know if you have any problems with that, and the directions are also listed there too. This is really great because let's say one of your students forgot their password. You can go in and reset their password at any time. You can actually change their class. So if I wanted, like, for example, this student to not be in PDS test, I actually wanted them to be in period 1, you can change that. Lots of stuff here. All right. A few other things. I know this is a lot of information, but I did want to point out just a few other things just so you can get the most out of your dashboard. If you go back down here, you'll see that we were at the Create Class button. We already did that. There's the View Course, which is exactly what I showed you kind of at the beginning, and you can go in and view that class, that program, just like a student would. Just note that you will not see any grades for your pre or post assessments just because you're in a demo mode. You will also be able to click through as fast as you would like. Students are not able to do that. They do have to listen to all that audio on every page. The last thing I want to show you is the treasure trove of resources that we have. So if you click on that resources button, you'll notice that there's just so much great information here. And I would recommend with any new EVERFI course, starting with that curriculum guide. So I had mentioned this under the remote learning resources section of this presentation, how helpful that curriculum guide can be to outlining your learning objectives and activities. So go ahead and open that up, save it to your desktop, print it out. And again, it's just going to be so helpful in terms of understanding what's being taught in each lesson at a quick glance. So you can kind of wrap your head around, is this a course that fits in with my unit? Where does it fit in? And do I maybe want to test out a couple lessons with some students, get their feedback and those sorts of things. So you can go back, you can click out of that and go back to the resources. You'll also notice we have also a lot of wonderful things here. We have discussion guides. We have a Red Ribbon Week toolkit. You'll see these lesson plans, and these are offline lesson plans. So if you wanted to continue the learning, a lot of these lesson plans are done kind of whole group in person, but you can definitely convert them to an online activity, like for example, the discussion guide. Those could be really great reflection questions that students can complete as an additional assignment to the online modules themselves. You'll also see your answer key up here. And then there's also some really great anti-vaping activities, vaping refusal activities. I'm also so excited to share that EVERFI will be releasing an anti-vaping or vaping prevention modules in this upcoming year. And as a teacher that has access to EVERFI account, you will be notified when that becomes available. We're very excited. We know that this has been overwhelmingly a topic that we've been asked for a request to make a course for. And so I'm just so excited that we're going to be able to have that available for you to share with your students. So more coming on that, so stay tuned. Excellent. And that is your full dashboard experience. If you are looking through these resources and thinking, you know, I don't teach financial education, or maybe I don't teach SEL at the elementary school, but I know people who might be interested either in my building or district or other districts, or maybe even other states, you are welcome to click this Invite a Teacher button. And it's actually really quick. You would just put their name, email, school, state, super quick. And you can have a personal greeting if you want, and then you can actually check up different courses that you think that they might be interested in. And that way they just quickly learn about EVERFI and they have that email sent directly to them. You're also welcome to forward any of my emails that have that kind of information in onto colleagues that might be interested as well. All right. So I'm going to go back to the presentation here. I did want to show a few other things, which is the student profile. So with the student profile here, you'll see that the website is everfi.com/register. That's where students will go in, type their registration code. They'll actually enter their information here. We do ask for the birth date, and we do not store that information. We are COPA and FERPA compliant. We take student data privacy super seriously and have signed the pledge to do so, the student privacy pledge. So I say all that to say the reason we ask that is because we need to know if students are over or under the age of 13 for surveying purposes to be in compliance with those laws. So those surveys are attitudinal, completely anonymous, completely optional for students. But basically they will test at the beginning of the program and at the end, kind of what their attitudes and behaviors are on those topics. So if the student is under the age of 13, we're not able to survey them, and we need to know that, and that's why we ask for the birth date. Again, it's not stored, it's just asked for that purpose. If you have any other questions about student data privacy or anything like that, please let me know. I'm happy to get you access to more information on that. So once they get logged in, then they'll go to their dashboard. This is the EVERFI financial literacy program, that a new version that launched this year. But even if this was prescription drug safety or mental wellness, it'll have a little box or tile there, and then there's a start button. So it's pretty easy. Now, let's say, for example, you figure out later on you had them do prescription drug safety and you want them to do mental wellness basics, and you create a different class for that. They can then go and add new course codes at any point. So if you want them to do more assignments, they can do that. All right, finally, next steps. I know we're running out of time here for the 50 minutes. I do want to say that thank you so much for being at this presentation virtually. I'm so glad to have you. I do have a 2-minute post-session survey, and I'm hoping that I'll be able to chat that into you through that back channel. Otherwise, I will get that survey to you at some point. If I can get that link to you, it only takes a couple minutes to fill out. Would really be grateful if you did. So it'll be helpful for me because then I can follow up with all this information that I'm about to share with you in an email. So again, would really appreciate that. The registration guide pictured here is what I want to send to you, as well as the 1-minute YouTube video showing students how they register themselves. Again, these can be posted to Google Classroom, to Canvas, to whatever platform you have. And the way that I can support you ongoing, I'm based here in Iowa City, Iowa. I support the state with our resources. I'm a former educator myself. And so, I'm here to make sure that not only getting you access to the programs is useful and helpful, but also if you decide to use them, that you have very successful implementation. So that can be, ongoing support of email, call, or text. I'll give you my information here in a second for that. I'm also happy to hold office hours. So if you have a lot of educators in your district who, may want some additional training opportunities, I'm happy to help with that and kind of hold like drop-in office hours where they can come in and talk through different situations with EVERFI programs. I can also host a virtual first day start. So if you have that type of learning where all the students maybe are on a Zoom call, I can help walk them through how to get access. I'm happy to do that and join you in one of those calls. And then finally, of course, tech support, so important. And I understand this is even, in the age of remote learning could be even more challenging. And I'm here to help take that burden off of your shoulders and provide that tech support. So please utilize me for those questions as well as curriculum questions. And then of course, anti-vaping. So excited for this to come out and I cannot wait for you to get access to it. Take a look and give us all the feedback on your thoughts about it. And finally, here's how you can contact me. My email is right here, rhenry@everfi.com. My phone number is 817-578-0721. It is a Texas phone number, even though I'm based here in Iowa City. I'm actually from Texas originally, but that will be the direct way to reach me. Of course, you can call me or text me. And then, of course, my Twitter @Rachel_EdTech. And again, thank you so much for your time. I'm hoping that through the back channel, I was able to get you that survey. If not, I will figure out a way to get you access to this presentation and that survey so that you can complete it. And I can, again, follow up with you on all of these things. I look forward to working with you this year and hope that we have really a great start to the fall. And I know we'll be taking it a day at a time. Thanks so much, and I hope you have a great rest of the conference and your day.